This conference will now be recorded.
That sounds familiar.
You're hearing it in person.
It is.
All right, so it is 7 p.m. and time to call the meeting to order. I would ask at this time if council have any additions to the agenda this evening. Okay. I would ask then that the agenda be approved as presented.
Go approve agenda.
Okay, moved by Councillor McDougall, seconded by Councillor McIver. All those in favor, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Contrary minded. Okay, the agenda is approved. Our next item is gallery presentations. We only have one gallery presentation this evening, and it will be Raising the Villages. And we have Jim Mustard with us here this evening, and we thank you for coming and telling us a little bit more, giving us an update. Certainly, we've heard all about Raising the Villages and are quite familiar with it, but happy to hear what's going on in Raising the Villages currently.
Thank you, Mayor, Council, staff. And, well, it's good to be back. Thinking this time where you see there's a lot of, obviously we see conflict and the chaos of the economy and sort of idea of COVID extending this, like there's just been a lot of community that's been lost. I think we all feel it. And Raising the Villages really was established before this hit, but was still an ongoing trend that we're losing ground in our communities. So the most important thing is our sense of belonging, connectivity, and well-being, which if we look at any of the statistics around mental health, we're seeing an increase in it. So I'm just going to do this gently. I know that Port Hawkesbury and the welcoming, the work around the welcoming communities piece, Councillor Point, is going along well, and we're picking up momentum. And timing's everything that they said. Victoria County did a presentation. Even after 6 years, what makes you think this is going somewhere? I said, in 6 years, we've created a place for people to actually bring this story to life. So to share a bit of that, what's going on in Bedak and Basic Arts in here in Phillipsburg. So here we go. So Raising Villages Maliomi Mijiwajik, which translates to gathering to our children. For our children in the early years, starting strong, creating welcoming spaces to connect more. So I'm just going to touch base on where this came from. So on to recognize we're located in Mi'kma'ki, the unceded territory of the Mi'kmaq people, and through Raising the Villages, Maliomi Mijiwajik, we are weaving back together our lives, from our infants to our elders, and from across all cultures to deepen and respect the understanding of each other. So it's kind of diversity and unity, not conformity. So this is where it came from. And it's good to remind ourselves that the Ibony Commission was struck to look at the economy. So what are we going to do here? And so, you know, you got John Bragg on there, you've got Susanna Fuller, some really good shakers that put together that commission, and they said, look, we've got some attitude problems, we got some structural problems. Then they created the One Nova Scotia Coalition, which was 15 leaders, and they examined everything. So 3 leaders of the provincial parties, business leaders, First Nations, 1 person from health, and they looked at all the statistics, said, well, the #1 investment we can make is your leaders. So power to the province, because they created the pre-primary program. Power to the federal government, where they're putting $10 daycare, but there's still a gap. There's still a gap. And what they asked us to do out of that commission, here's the playbook, communities. They said, can you guys go out there and see what's going on with families, with young children, and get them to develop the notion of welcoming. So going along with what's going on with the Welcoming Communities Initiative of Port Hawkesbury, what does welcome mean to you if you're a newcomer to the community? What does welcome mean to you when you're a mother for the first time? And you lose your whole community. All the people you went out, everything changes in a moment. What's your welcoming look like? How do you belong in the community? So I think we did this in 2017, and we're looking at creating some pilots out of this. So when we looked at 2016, I was still elected. I just got elected. We held a meeting here in the Shannon studio. And we really talked about what is going on right now with young families and what more is needed. That 2017 research in 2018 really led to us looking at trying to develop something that we thought was really important for us, which was some models of these centers. So we created in 2020, I didn't get reelected, and at that point, it was still being an initiative from the municipality of Inverness with partnerships like Fort Hawkesbury, Victoria County, and Cook and Waveland. So we said, well, I can't really expect the municipality, because you know everyone's a champion of something on council here. And so I stepped back and we talked over the Zoom with numbers of people, including MLAs like Barb Adams, and we said, well, let's create a cooperative, and it's a multi-sector co-op, which means it's looking at health. It's how do we improve the health of communities? So that's where the co-op came from. So we struck that. Let's go. Is that you, Terry?
Yeah, go ahead.
So we created this co-op, and who's involved is representatives from Richmond County, right through Inverness, Victoria, First Nations, and we've got a bunch of partnerships. We just did a presentation in Victoria County, and Keith Bay, the MLA, said we want you to talk to Council or Minister Comer around mental health and addiction. So there's lights coming on. There's lights coming. And the Raising Villages, you can see that this is in your files. I'm not going to go over it, but it's about their awareness of what the early years are number one, and to get some policy in place so we can sustain the momentum when we get these models up and going. So it's to help shape what communities need, and then help be the backbone to make sure that there's attention to this at the provincial level and federal level, so the municipalities can be the beneficiaries, but we don't have to pay for it. And what we know in Inverness County, how our children are doing, they're struggling. And this is before the pandemic, everyone. And this is not a blame of parents. Please, please remind ourselves that parents always had others. They always had grandmothers and aunties. Before 40 years ago, every home had an extended family. All of you grew up in it. And that's not the case anymore. So when you're first pregnant and you have your first baby, it's a lonely place. And so where do we find the people we want to meet with, the services we need, and it feels like we're welcome? So poverty rates still going through the roof. 30% of our children. So what do we envision? Here's the model. We want to go for something patchwork and silos, where it's not to blame governments. This is how you try to react to things that are going on in our community. You created more services, but you didn't co-locate them. You created more programs, but you didn't coordinate them. So what we're doing is saying, let's shape it from the municipal Raising the Villages level and have all those villages in Port Hawkesbury. Maybe you have 2 centers in Port Hawkesbury. Maybe you have one over by Tamarack as well as one over here. And what does it look like when you're in Maui? And what does it look like when you're in Macomb? Or what does it look like in St. Peter's? So we can help create those models with the communities, because this is something that takes a little bit of time to envision what this looks like. Because it starts prenatally and goes right through, so it's seamless. You can look at all the things you'd have there: midwives, doulas, peer-to-peer, parents meeting parents, nutritional support, a shared loving lap, like where's grandma? And even if it's not your grandma, where's the loving lap that can help extend the love that we all deserve as an infant? Pediatricians, intergenerational, speech and language, early intervention, they're all here. You know, the mayor's sister, bless her soul, has been early intervention and promoting this model, but she can only do so much from early intervention. She says, if we had centers like that, we could do so much more with our staff. So this is just saying a continuum that really creates a one-stop shop, the same as we would imagine our communities to be when you go into the facilities. All your groceries are there. You go into the school, all the classrooms are there. If we look at what's needed from prenatal right through, it would be like, that's our village again. So this idea that we can actually work upstream, which means we're working before things become real issues, to create welcoming community spaces, reduce childhood poverty at the source. It's hard sometimes to reduce poverty downstream, but if we make that place the enriched environment that really supports the youngest citizens with food, with the actual love and whatever other needs they have, then that starts to create equity. Reduce mental health, crime, low literacy, addictions, unemployability. Connect to transit local food, like you've got a center, now you can connect to it and people can have access to it. Strengthen the culture and language for newcomers as well as the Gaelic, Acadian, and First Nations languages. That's where you make the difference. Provide universal access to important services programs. Like I said, you come in there, someone's coordinated. When the early intervention is coming in, we can all access that service because it's the 3rd Tuesday of the month. The office is there, everyone feels welcome. You can hang out, meanwhile you're having a great time. Think about that. And then your business readiness, what you're doing in Port Hawkesbury to make this place business friendly is attracting young families and keeping them. That's our game changer. That's why the IDNI Commission coming to the Nova Scotia, they said, we can't do it, but you guys are the ones that welcome people. You communities are the place where the rubber hits the road. Not a program from out in Halifax dropping in. We know the pre-primary are good, they're in the school. We know the child care is going to be good, we're going to expand that. But this is really the kind of informal coordinator make this happen. So why has the early years been the number one? This 20 years we've known this. It sets trajectories for life. So look at these, all these milestones: vision, hearing, the idea of habitual ways of responding, emotional control, language, symbols, being able to recognize symbols, pure social skills, and numbers, so numeracy. Almost all of them peak before childcare, which is at 18 months. So there's a lot of peaking in the development of the brain well before you become part of a group system that's supported. So that gap is a place for us to create the benefits of what our community can do. And so this is an example. I got my daughter who came with us at 5 years old, Jeanette, bless her soul, taught me this one. She said, you know, a parent or somebody sees a snake, they get scared, their heartbeat goes up and they jump away. She said, when a baby gets tired, scared, change a diaper, needs to be held, it's hot or they're cold, they're hungry, or they're lonely, they cry, but they can't get away from it until someone comes and helps them. The difference is when you get scared at your age, you just move away from the fear. When a baby needs it, they cry and someone needs to be there. That's where the extended family, the village, always was there. So when a mother's tired, when a mother's alone at home, it's a harder piece to make this happen. And when this doesn't get met early on, these are the things that show up long term. These are the things that show up downstream: adverse mental health, depression, malnutrition, cardiovascular disease, memory loss, immune deficiency, drug and alcohol addiction, ADHD, and asthma and allergies are all been shown to appear later on in life. So I'm not going to go into these studies, but they're all there. They're 20 years old. They're 20 years old, those studies. They're 10 times more vulnerable if you have an adverse, neglected early childhood than if you have a supportive one for mental health and addictions. So we need to know the evidence is there. Grandma knew best. You pick up a crying baby, and she was there to do it. So what are we doing on top of this? And then the economic story. So here's the numbers game. This is a Nobel economist. And he said, if you put $1 in before they start school, you'll get as high as $8 return. If you put it in after they go to school, you're going to get less than $1 return. So he did all the studies of everything. He's from Chicago. And he said, this is where you don't wait to invest later when upstream has been proven. And then this is the numbers I got from the Canadian Addictions Mental Health Center out of Ontario. So they did a study across Canada. The most recent, $51 billion a year is lost in healthcare costs and lost productivity and reductions in health-related quality of life from mental health. In Nova Scotia, that would translate to $1.4 billion a year spent in treatment and substance use disorders, suicide prevention, the economic cost of healthcare, and lost productivity. That translates for this community in Port Hawkesbury to $4.1 million. That's how much it's costing us. So on the other one, we said $8 in for every $1 out. What if we created 2 centers in this community, and you only need a coordinator and a half for each center and some overhead? Pay some heat and lights to the civic center if it was in the crowd or wherever it is. That's a $300,000 a year investment, and you get $8 back on every dollar in if you're doing it, right? So multiply your 8 times 300. You got 2.4 million you're making every year, and it's not costing you 4.1 million. So the inverse is it's a $6 million differential if we do this. And across the whole province, this is why I know what it's like to sit on council. Okay, so let's just look like it woke up. It's going to cost a lot of money. $45 to $60 million for the whole province to enact this, because the professionals are all out there. We need people who know how to make a welcoming center welcome and to coordinate. So it's not a PhD level. It's not that you aren't PhD level. You're PhD level in community development, but it's not accreditation to be the best at early child development and all these other things. You're really creating the welcoming center. So these numbers don't scare me. Anybody who just saw the provincial budget, some pretty big numbers there in health, right? A lot. This is health. So this is why I think Minister Comer's time to take a look at this. And so then there's our regional imperative. Let's create some hubs all over. So we have Port Hawkesbury creating a welcoming community. Bay St. Lawrence, Bold, and Bedeck are moving forward on this. We're looking to get some funding this year to support that coordination for both those centers. Bay St. Lawrence has created a room that they're dedicating to Raising the Villages. Goal is now looking to extend those programs so that they can be a one-stop shop. In the daytime, it's young families. Elders are in there. After school programs are in there because the families are going back there at different. On the weekends, it's adolescent program. Imagine. Not just focused on youth, but seamless. And so, and this last piece is that this last summer we presented at the Summer Institute in PEI. It was all done virtually. Anyways, they applied for ESDC funding and got funding to actually address this upstream policy we're talking about. And the examples are using Raise the Villages. And so they're meeting with the premiers in the next 4 months. Plus, we're hosting, the same as we had in the Shannon studio in 2017, a regional meeting to talk about this. So it's not on your backs. The beauty of this is we're doing this together with people like Councillor Plan, with people like our community people like Louise. We're doing with those people to try to get the attention of the province that this is the best investment we can make. Well, one. So this will be next year, expand the network, create an infographic that's going to be developed. I'm just talking to St. X and CPU. They can be helpful on this. Support the pilot sites. So we have one here. Let's support that one, as well as we have one starting and looking at Bold and Bay St. Lawrence. Hosting the spring workshop. So we have some local gatherings planned with some summer students coming on, and we're going to apply for multi-year funding from the Collin Foundation because we figure we're in the right place now. We have the partnerships. We just need to get beyond what we've done is really get by with the support of municipalities and the United Way and community health boards, but it's really next level. That's it. I don't know if there's a time limit on it, but that's not bad. It's like 7:16.
You did really well, I mean. So
I know that's a lot, and I appreciate like to kind of throw a lot out there, maybe a lot to absorb, but just the point is we're on the right path. Just honoring that, and the support has been amazing. And whether it's been 6 years or 16 years, you just stay at something that you know. Our families with young children can't advocate for themselves. Like a mother with an infant, they think she's going to get up on and say, "Here's what I need." They're busy. So it's really up to us as a community to think about this and see how this supports the whole continuum of our community's welcome. Thank you.
So don't go anywhere in case council may have questions. And I guess we've worked together on Raising the Villages for quite a long time. And I guess just to put that whole, part earlier in your presentation around the silos and what that looks like and how do we take a step towards a solution for how families interact with all of the services that are out there to support families. Most of the time they're not even aware of the many services. So we had a welcoming family expo here. I feel like 2017, maybe Terry?
So
2016, 2017, brought together 55 tables. Each table represented a different either organization, not-for-profit group, something that provided some kind of service, either socially or health-related, anything to support families with children and seniors, like really from 9 months to 99 years old, everything that supports families and however families look like, intergenerational families, single parent families. And there was over, I think, close to 500 people that flowed through the Bearhead Room that day. And the incredible feedback that we had, most people had no idea that there was so many supports out there. And that made such a tremendous difference to some of the families that visited, that they were connected in ways that they weren't connected before. So that one simple example of having that one-stop shopping resource, just that one point in time, we were able to expose 500 people from all around the Strait area to all of these free services that were available to families, changed a lot of lives in that one day. It made a big difference. And although we you know, we heard about that event for several years after that, you know, people got
Make a difference.
help and support that they didn't even realize that they needed, because they didn't even realize that that support was out there to even help them. So yeah, like this the concept around a welcoming center, a place where we can, you know, create that and more. Loving laugh, bringing together, you know, the grandmothers, the grandfathers, the infants, the families. We've created an extended family. Like I really love the concept. I think it's something that our community needs. But anyway, I just wanted to
Thanks for sharing
just
that.
give that example to, because I know Blaine wasn't a part of council when that occurred. I don't believe Huey and Mark were. Jason wasn't a part of that, but it did make a tremendous difference at that point in time. And I feel like even doing something like that again, post-COVID, it will make a real difference, and maybe could inspire what a space like this could look like, and how people could interact in a space like that. So whatever that does look like, it's going to look different depending on the community and depending on the need. So I would ask council, I guess, any questions or comments?
Just through your worship, Mr. Jim, just thank you very much for the presentation. You're right, it's a lot of information, and you're good to provide a lot the other times that you presented as well. But I don't know that we have your presentation.
You can
Do we
share.
have it?
Yeah.
Okay.
And anytime, Councillor, just reach out if there's questions about that. You know, I've been really lucky in my life to just be able to go deep on this from my own life as a foster parent and thinking I could do it, to understanding, just to humble myself and say, I'd rather be supporting the mother and the family unit than taking care of a child once they've lost the attachment. So it took me a while to admit that, but just been lucky to be able to work as on a municipal level and just to shape it. Like those events point direction. Are we there yet? No, but early childhood wasn't even recognized by the province until 2014 as a placeholder within the government. There was only childcare under community services. So everything's evolving. It's all, and I think we hold a story here at Cape Breton of just how it felt 40 years ago. And we didn't understand how valuable it was. So we can't go back there, but we can go forward with the best stuff. You have your seniors Christmas thing. You have 300 seniors, you're serving them. You have young people helping them. You have all these examples of exactly what we're talking about. So maybe we can make this the next step. It really revitalizes the core of our community. So any questions in that presentation, just drop me a line.
Yeah, go ahead.
Yeah, thank you, Your Worship. Through you, Your Worship. Thanks, Jim, for your presentation. Like Councilor McCory said, we've seen this before, but I've seen it at the Nova Scotia Federation of Municipalities when you made a great presentation there one year. This is probably one of the better ones, if not the best ones I've seen for information on that. I know there's more to it. I just got a comment and maybe a question.
Yep.
The comment was, we're talking about grandmothers. And it's going to be another little history lesson here, and the mayor always loves my history lessons. So I used to go to St. Therese School down where the church is now. I used to be St. Therese School there. And we'd always, after school, we'd always go home, and we always stopped in at the mayor's grandmother's and would have food and drinks. She always had stuff there for us. That's the way the communities were back then. You stopped in, you can stop at another house. You don't see much of that anymore. That's my comment. My question is, I noticed you said the poverty numbers there on the different communities. Where do they get those numbers from, Jim?
You know, and that's a good question. So United Way comes up with the statistics, and I think they have to get it from Stats Canada kind of piece. So it's probably, there's accuracy and inaccuracy there. There's a lot of good things going on in families that are not maybe having enough money, and there's support and cooperation there, but just numerically what they're using is a cutoff line in terms of what the income level is. And so I'm really not a stickler on the poverty thing. I think we can just move to health and well-being and really start to get capacity. And then poverty, we can help each other. We know food banks exist, but let's just create food Fridays at our center. So it's not all attached to income and system. But going back to stopping in, And we're having something to eat, which was that always a shame? I would stop into my McFarland neighbors and there's something to eat, Jim. I wasn't bored, I was hungry. The point is, that's the way we treated each other. And that's the way our young citizens deserve it in any family without knowing the details. And maybe that's the step up they needed to then think about retraining or help out the next thing. I think that's the story. You put your finger on it. I don't like the poverty one. I just put it up there because it can sometimes get attention. Maybe like politicians. I don't see municipal councillors as the hardcore politicians I see.
It presents a call to action.
Yeah, I think it's a call to action.
Yes. Go ahead, Councillor Deputy Mayor.
Through your worship. Jim, thanks for this presentation. It's the first time I've had you present to me. A lot of information was very well done. Melissa's going to send it out to us. And I'll go over it again a little slower. No, hey, we only have so much time, but no, again, I appreciate your coming here and giving this presentation. Thank you.
Thanks very much.
Councillor McGuire.
Through your, thank you, Jim. I'll echo council and for the presentation, and I always support it from the start.
Yeah.
Raising villages, and all I can say is continue the good work, and any support you need from myself, just let me know.
Very much appreciate it.
Thank you.
Thanks, Council.
So I guess one other thing or question that I would have in terms of timeline. So I'm assuming that there will be obviously Minister is in coma, and I guess fleshing out what is the appetite at the provincial level, what's the appetite at the federal level, and then what does that look like in terms of contributions from municipalities. So like if we look at a welcoming center here in the town, you know, what does that kind of funding scenario look like? And, you know, and of course it takes a village. It's not just, you know, the multi-tiered levels of government. Also like some of those support agencies that, you know, 55 support agencies in one room. I mean, this is, it's a tremendous opportunity. It's just really taking what we already have and working it a different way and making sure that we're enabling families to be able to know about and access the support that they need. Most families have no clue because of all the silos, what is even out there. And because, you know, you're not visiting Rita for tea or whatever it was, she can't come out of the oven, you know, that word of mouth piece has been lost. So, you know, there's not that transference of knowledge and that transference of the, you know, oh, did you know about this program? That's not naturally occurring like it maybe once did. And we don't know our neighbors nearly as well as we once.
So I think the role of municipalities is going to be that kind of communication hub. And they really, it's for the province to be partners with us on this. We're going to find the spaces, whether bold when you go through Bedeck, it's the old Kidston Landing. The community bought that building. Business people bought that building for this hub. In Bay St. Lawrence, it's the old school. In Mabu, it could be at the convent.
So,
and in Readiness, we have no space, so I'm working with Mill Road to add an addition on the building. So it's going to look different in every community. What we're advocating for is that kind of, this is your place. This is your new library. So instead of a library where you're going to get information and find out books, you're going to find out who's there. So your library is Rita. Your library is the new mother. And you're going to get the resources, these peer-to-peer, and then you're going to find these other 50 amazing services that I had to travel hours for. And now I can have.
It's interesting that you mentioned libraries because we literally at our last public meeting had a presentation from Laura Emery on behalf of the libraries. And, you know, what really stood out is how much of the supports that people drew from the library resources, access to the internet, computers, obviously more than just books. So maybe it's a reimagining of library, reimagining of the welcoming space, reimagining, you know, what does a space have to look like for all ages?
Yeah, I think that's what I've got to play around with. This is a new library, so, and it adds another point to it that we do have coordination. So we're going to ask for a little bit of funding because really we haven't even been a year as a co-op going, and We applied through SDC and all these interagency federal funding. We didn't get the funding. So it's okay. We're going back to it. We're not going to give up on that one. And we'll get there on that multi-year funding, or we'll find a partner to help us on that coordination piece. But right now that funding goes to, you work with Amanda Knight. So she's really our backbone. She does that all part-time. She connects the dots, makes sure that gets done, this gets done, while our board of volunteers, which includes, you know, people from the Strait Regional, as well as, I say, First Nations representatives, the Gaelic community. That volunteer board is there to just be the sort of creative thinking, make the connection. So we're really at an amazing time. We're going to crowdfund this one more year. And so we asked for a little bit of money from Victoria County, Inverness, and Richmond County. We'll ask for, you know, just proportionate money from Port Hawkesbury. And that's all going to continue Amanda's work with a little bit on the side. But we can work with your group, Jason, and figure out if it's time to bring back in the fall when COVID maybe is under control. Let's have one of those fairs again and see if that jumpstarts the attention we need to build on what you and your team's doing.
So I guess if you don't have a formal ask for council at this point.
We'll bring it on from the greater mid team.
Yeah, but once it does come forward, we'll definitely give it some consideration when we enter into operational budget deliberations. Thank you so much for your time. Does council have any other comments or questions?
Good.
Okay. Thank you so much, Jim.
Thank you, Jim.
Great to see everyone. Have a good rest of your week.
Stay cool. Don't be a stranger.
We're in the play together.
You will.
Yeah,
You are going to be in the play.
yeah.
I'm a troublemaker. I don't know if you're what.
No, I'm not.
Okay.
Yeah.
I look forward to seeing you.
Take care, Jim.
Yeah, thanks.
Okay, so we'll move on to acknowledgements. So I do have a few acknowledgements. So the first one, obviously, we will be making a proclamation with regard to Lyme Disease Awareness Month. And also we have this month, the month of April, is Autism Acceptance Month, as well as National Autism Awareness Month. And I just wanted to thank Deputy Mayor Coyne. This Saturday, he read an autism proclamation, as well as raised the autism flag. So thank you, Jason, for that. And also, I just wanted to acknowledge an amazing local athlete from the town of Port Hawkesbury. You may know her. I'm sure you definitely know her parents. Her name is Marcy McNeil, so Gerard and Kelly's daughter. She attends Mount St. Vincent University in Halifax, and she plays on the university volleyball team. Just recently, her team won the Atlantic Collegiate Atlantic banner. I think it's the ACCA. I had to ask Kelly what that meant. But basically what that translates into is that her team became one of the 8 top volleyball teams in the country. So that is pretty spectacular. And she was also chosen at that championship game where they took the Atlantics as the MVP for the game. Really inspirational local athlete. We have so many here in town. I just wanted to make sure I took a moment to congratulate Marcy and her family for that. Okay.
Through you, your worship, I would ask council to approve a letter of recognition be sent to Marcy from the town.
Okay.
Second that motion.
Okay, thank you. So motion for a letter of recognition congratulating Marcy and her family. Any question has been called? All those in favor, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Contrary minded. Okay, thank you for that, Jason. And also I would call on Councilor McDougall for.
Yes, your worship, thank you through you. And I just want to acknowledge a great friend of the town of Port Hawkesbury, Mary Jess McDonald, who passed away last night. She was a school board representative for many years. She was the chair of the school board for many years, and she was a great friend of the town of Port Hawkesbury. And I'd just like to acknowledge her. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Any other acknowledgements this evening? We'll definitely send our condolences along to Mary Jess's family.
Yes, please.
There's not too many people who didn't know Mary Jess, for sure. Right. So if there's no other acknowledgements this evening, I would ask council to draw their attention to agenda item number 6, which is approval of council minutes. So I would ask if there are any errors or omissions for the public meeting dated March 1st, 2022. Hearing none.
Your worship, I just go to item number 14.
14 on the March 1st minutes?
Yes, yeah,
Okay, sure.
and just,
14 you
it's
said,
not
sorry?
14, but it's just above 14.
Okay.
And with a motion to make an amendment, a motion to allow yourself and Mr. Doyle to be able to, or authorizing you both to sign the construction agreement with Public Works. And then there was some discussion about, does that mean signing that agreement that the pilot study is concluded when the survey is over? And so there was an amendment made, motion by Councilor McIver, seconded by myself, that the town of Port Hawkesbury, it reads here that the town of Port Hawkesbury amend the resolution, including traffic data from the 2022 summer months, including in September.
Is there an error with the wording, or you just want to bring it up in other business or in business horizon for update?
Yeah, sorry, it's not an error.
Okay,
Yeah,
yeah, no, but we can bring it up in business horizon if you like.
sure, okay.
Okay, no
Yep.
problem. Okay, but is there any, did you notice any mistakes or, okay? So hearing none, we'll move on, and I will ask if there's any errors or omissions in the special public meeting of March 15th, 2022. Okay, and then our last special public meeting of March 29th, 2022, I would ask if there are any errors or omissions that the council noticed. Okay, so we'll move on then to agenda item 7, which is business arising from the minutes. And I guess Blaine's question, so Councilor McCrory's question with regard to, I guess, any update on that agenda item in terms of the motion for the approval of the, I should have the wording here, it was under 14, correct? Just above 14. The amendment moved by Councilor McIver and seconded by Councilor McCrory. The town of Port Hawkesbury amend the resolution including traffic data in 2022 summer months concluding in September. So maybe just an update with regard to where we are with that.
Sure. And I appreciate the wording's not overly clear, but my understanding is that what council wanted was to include the traffic data, excuse me, the traffic data from this summer 2022, in the overall assessment of the Reeve Street project. And that traffic study conclude in September. So the cost sharing agreement has been signed, but prior to that signing, we have an email from Nova Scotia Public Works stating that the traffic data from the summer of 2022 will be included in the analysis for the Reeve Street assessment project.
Correct.
Thank you.
Any follow-up questions or any other business arising from those 3 sets of minutes?
Yes, your worship, through on the same motion. This might have been brought up in errors or omissions. I'm just wondering, I know I voted against the motion. I supported the amendment of the motion,
But not the
main motion. The motion was approved as amended with 1 nay recorded from Councilor McDougall. I did support the amendment for the September, but I didn't approve of the original motion. And I said my reasons why at that time. I'm not going to explain them again. So I think that does say that here, but I'm just trying to see both motions.
Yes, yeah, so it does. Yeah, so there was no recorded nays for the amendment, but 1 recorded nay for
Okay.
the main motion. Yeah,
Yeah,
I think that's presented.
Good, thank you.
Any other business arising? Okay, so we'll move on then to council committee reports. So I'll hand things over to our CAO, Terry Doyle, for any reports coming out of committee level.
Yes, Your Worship, there was just one motion for council consideration coming from Committee of Whole, and that's that the town of Port Hawkesbury support the Cape Breton South recruiting for health. Should be committee with a financial contribution that will be decided during the 2022-2023 budgetary process.
Okay, what is the wishes of council?
Seconded.
So moved by Deputy Mayor Point, seconded by Councilor Corey. Any discussion on the motion that's on the floor, or if you're prepared, you can call the question.
Question.
Okay, the question has been called. All those in favor, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Contrary minded? Okay, the motion is approved. And that was the only,
That was the only
Okay.
item arising from the.
Thank you. So at this point in time, I would ask if there are any errors or omissions for our committee of the whole meeting, March 15th, 2022. If there are none, then I would ask for a motion to approve that set of minutes.
Moved.
Thank you. Councilor MacGyver,
Second.
seconded by Deputy Mayor Coyne. All those in favor, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Contrary minded? Okay, the minutes of the committee of the whole meeting are approved. I would ask at this time if there are any business arising from those minutes. Okay, so hearing,
Your Worship, I think Deputy Mayor Coyne, in terms of the presentation from Director of the Eastern Counties Regional Library, had asked if she could forward along some data in terms of Port Hawkesbury users to council. Don't know that we received that.
So I haven't received anything yet. I'm assuming that she's busy, and if we don't get it by the next committee of the whole, we can bring it up and maybe reach out to them.
any other business arising? Okay. So we don't have any motions coming from in camera. At this time, we do not have any correspondence. Under agenda item 11, we do have a proclamation for consideration of council. And for the benefit of council, I will read the proclamation. So it's for Lyme Disease Awareness Month, which is coming up in May. Whereas Lyme disease is a serious illness caused by the bite of a black-legged tick infected with the bacterium Borrelia. I don't even know if I can say that.
Good thing you tried.
Burgdorfel. And whereas black-legged ticks carry a variety of diseases or illnesses can now be found in all parts of Nova Scotia, and whereas awareness, education, and practicing preventative measures such as daily tick checks and proper tick removal can help reduce your chances of contracting tick-borne diseases. Therefore, be it resolved that I, Mayor Brenda Chisholm-Heaton, on behalf of the town of Hawkesbury, do hereby proclaim May 2022 as Lyme Disease Awareness Month. What is the wishes of council?
I move we adopt the proclamation on Lyme Disease Awareness Month.
Second.
Okay, any discussion on the motion, or if you're prepared, you can call the question.
Question.
Question has been called. All those in favor, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Contrary minded? Okay, proclamation is adopted by council, which makes May Awareness Tick
Awareness.
Lyme Disease Awareness Month. Very good, thank you.
Your
Moving-
Worship, just with respect to that, it's part of the correspondence that was sent to us.
Yes, the email.
There was mention about blue light.
Oh, blue light on the side of the building?
Yeah.
Okay, so I guess, is that something that we can replicate with what we have on hand? Do we have any blue Christmas lights or something similar, blue floodlight?
Your Worship, I'm not aware, I haven't looked into that, but I'd certainly
Sure.
be willing to do that.
And Your Worship, it's not necessarily something, I just wanted to bring it up. It's
Yep, as part of a suggestion on how we can recognize the month of May. Yep, so I guess if there's anything we can do with regard to some of the suggestions on how we can, I guess, do our own awareness raising in addition to the proclamation, then will allow staff to kind of see what we can potentially take on.
I'm seeing green light.
Green.
Seeing a green light, not blue light.
I feel like it should be a black light. It's a black light.
It is a green light.
Good light. Is it a green light or a
It's a
blue light?
green light.
Green light, okay.
Somebody will share that.
I feel like a floodlight.
It's a colored
with
light
green
anyway.
celebrating. Anyway. Well, moving on then to council expenses. I am happy to hand things over to Terry for this report.
Yes, Your Worship, the council expenses have been included in your package. There was a total of $795 expended in the month of March. And that report has been posted on it. Will be posted on the website after this meeting.
Thank you. Okay, so accessibility plan. I appreciate council's time last Tuesday for allowing our accessibility advisory committee to present to council with regard to the accessibility plan that was drafted on our behalf to the town of Hawkesbury staff and council. And at this time, and I just for context, we didn't receive any feedback or suggested changes from any council after that presentation. With also acknowledging that at the presentation last Tuesday, Deputy Mayor O'Coin give a great suggestion with regard to some of the work that could be planned in collaboration on the accessible housing front. That we could potentially express the need for accessible housing to Cape Breton Island, the housing authority. So that is information and a suggestion I'm happy to bring forward to the Accessibility Advisory Committee on behalf of Deputy Mayor O'Coin. Other than that, we haven't really had any feedback or requested changes. So essentially the document is as presented to council as of last week. I would ask at this time if council would consider the approval of this accessibility plan.
Motion.
That was a tie. Okay, so Council McIver has moved a motion. It's been seconded by Deputy Mayor O'Coin. Any discussion with regard to the motion? And of course, they did, just for your behalf, Council McDougall, I did pass on your support of the plan on behalf of council that last Tuesday.
Thank you.
But if there's any other questions or comments, or if you're prepared, you can call the question.
Question.
The question has been called. All those in favor, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Contrary minded? The accessibility plan is approved unanimously. And I guess before we move on, if council deems it appropriate, I would love if council would consider a letter to the Accessibility Advisory Committee, just recognizing the tremendous work that was done by that committee. It was a lot of work in a short amount of time, and we had a lot of first voice participation in that committee, and I feel like that would be very well received by the committee if council would consider that.
I move that we send a letter of congratulations and a letter saying the tremendous amount of work that the Accessibility Committee did, and thanking them on behalf of Town Council.
Thank you, Councilor McDougall.
I'll second.
Thank you. Any discussion?
I just have one comment through your worship. We can send one to the committee, but I think it would be good to personalize a letter to each individual
That's a great
member.
suggestion. Yeah, or at least name them all in the same letter and make sure they each get a copy.
Sure.
That's fantastic.
Question.
Okay, the question has been called. All those in favor, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Contrary minded? Okay,
Your worship, just to through you to council. Just today I noticed that the Running Man store, Fort Hawkesbury on Reed Street, they were installing sliding automatic doors
That's
there this
amazing.
afternoon. Yeah, so that's a positive thing.
Absolutely, very positive. Hopefully a future nominee for the Accessibility Award, hopefully we'll be
Yeah.
able to collaborate with the Chamber of Commerce on. Fantastic. So we will, unless there's any other items with regard to the accessibility plan, and thank you for that, Commissioner, for the letter. So Deputy Mayor Point has declared a conflict on the next item. So we'll just give them a moment to leave the gallery.
Shut the door, Jay. That's what we should.
What's going
All right, so our next agenda item is the taxi policy fee item. So I'll hand things over to Terry to review.
Yes, Your Worship. So at our special meeting of March 29th, 2022, staff brought forward an amendment to our taxi policy. The amendment, which is highlighted in yellow and reviewed at that time, gives council the ability to adjust the flat rate when significant spikes in fuel occur to fairly accommodate for unforeseen increase in taxi operating costs. So that was a suggestion to council. It was brought forward, and that is the change in the taxi policy. I won't go through the whole thing. It's a small change to enable us to react more quickly when that unpredictable and significant spikes happen in fuel costs.
Thank you, Terry. What's the wishes of council?
If it is Your Worship, if it is the wish of council, we may wish to consider that the town of Hawkesbury adopt, I'm sorry, we did that. That the town of Hawkesbury adopt the revised taxi policy with notice given at the March 29th special public meeting.
Thank you, Terry, for the motion. What is the wishes of council with regard to this?
Your Worship, I make a motion that council adopt the new taxi policy as presented.
Thank you. Do we have a seconder? If you have any, we can second the motion, and then if you have questions.
Yeah,
So
like that.
we have a motion on the floor.
First thing, I shouldn't have closed the door. I shouldn't have closed the door because it's an open meeting.
Yeah,
So I thought we were going to camp.
That's okay. You didn't lock the door, right?
No.
Okay, that's all that matters.
I thought we were going to camp, but no. you're right.
If there's any questions with regard to the motion that's on the floor at this time, if not, you can call the question if you're prepared to do so.
I have a question.
Sure, go ahead.
through you. We're adopting, it's not a new policy we're adopting, it's.
No, amendment
Yeah,
to allow for.
and I wasn't at the special meeting, so I didn't have,
So it's to allow for, it makes it a little bit more nimble when we do have the.
no, I understand, yeah, no, and I agree with that. It's a good thing.
Yeah, it just, we can expedite and respond to
Yeah.
spikes in gas prices
Sure.
with,
Understand.
with exception.
Allows through Your Worship, allows the CAO to make the adjustment
Absolutely,
up or down
Yeah.
according to the prices.
without having to go through the whole process.
The
Which
motion-
Understood.
Yeah, which oftentimes, if you have to go through that whole drawn out process,
Yeah.
the gas prices could be lower.
Yeah.
than-
Understood.
Correct.
Okay, any other questions or comments?
Just a state
Please.
from Councilor McDougall's observation. So the motion could reflect that it's town of Hawkesbury amend the tax policy.
Amend. Okay. Any other questions or comments? You're prepared to
Question.
question? Question has been called. All those in favor, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
What?
Contrary minded? Okay, the motion is adopted. We'll allow just for a moment for Deputy Mayor Cohen to return. The next item will be video conferencing policy.
Motion to adjourn.
You're very close.
Adjourn.
So our next agenda item under other business is video conferencing policy. So Terry, if you could do a quick review.
Yes, your worship. So again, on March 29th meeting, special meeting, we reviewed an amendment we reviewed another draft video conferencing policy. This policy reflects really only the terms that are directly outlined in the Municipal Government Act. So it's a much shortened policy and to the point. If council wishes to look at some of the other items that were brought forward in a previous version of that, it can do so through procedural policy or procedural. But this is a shortened council video conferencing policy. I can go through the terms of the policy, but if council are familiar with it, then we can move on.
I'm good.
Would you like Terry to go through it?
No, I read it thoroughly, Your Worship. Thank
Okay,
you.
perfect. Okay, so we do have this teleconferencing, video conferencing, apologies, motion for consideration. The town of Port Hawkesbury adopt the video conferencing policy with notice given at the March 29th special public meeting. What is the wishes of council?
I'd make that motion,
Okay,
worship.
thank you. So Councilor Corey has made a motion. Do we have a seconder?
I'll second.
Okay, seconded by Deputy Mayor O'Coin. Any discussion on the motion at this time?
Yes, Your Worship,
Sure.
through you, I have a few
Go ahead.
comments
Councillor.
or concerns or.
Go ahead, Councillor.
When we're talking about committees, I mean, I understand councils and regular council, and I understand standing committees,
Mhm.
which I have a list of here, which include policing and public works and airport, personnel, parks and recreation. That they should be in person, yes. But if we have other and committee members that I talked to for different committees, like the waterfront, especially the accessibility committee. I mean, we want to make that as accessible as possible, and let people come to these meetings through video. Festival of the Strait, for instance, we had a meeting last night and there would have been, maybe half the committee wouldn't be there if it wasn't for our video conference. The doctors recruiting. It's hard to do that with it. They're all over the place. It's hard to do that with the video conferencing. The library, they're also. The Inverness Home Support. We're all over the place there. It's hard to travel. It's hard, housing. The Landry Lake Water Utility. We got SAT. And I can't name the amount of committees that the mayor's on, but Jim benefited from this. This is 2022, not 1999 or 1994. I heard that the House today changed they're going to Zoom. They're doing all their meetings through teleconferencing. So I definitely support this, and I think not only should we support it, in the future we should enhance it somehow to make some of these, make sure that we can get more people involved, more people able to come to meetings, and just make it a lot easier.
Reduce barriers.
Reduce the barriers. Thank you, Your Worship. So I do support this. Thank you. Hybrid, yes, exactly.
Fancy words you're throwing around there.
The House just did it.
Any other questions or comments? If you're prepared, you can call the question.
Question.
Question has been called. All those in favor, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Contrary minded? Motion is approved. Okay, and that concludes our other business, I believe, Terry.
Yes.
Okay, so we're moving on to approved additions for which there are none this evening. Future meetings, we have a committee of the whole Tuesday, April 19th, which always falls on the third Tuesday of every month.
Your Worship, through you, I'm just wondering if I'm going to be flying home from Montreal that night. I'm wondering if it's possible to change that. I know we did in the past
Yeah.
to Wednesday. Is that possible? April 20th.
Let's just take a
Is that
quick
okay with
peek.
everybody's agenda?
Let's
or
everybody take a
schedule?
peek for Wednesday, the April the 19th, so the 20th.
It's good for me.
It's good for me in the evening.
Good for staff?
Gives you an extra day to prepare.
That's great.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, we will definitely look at amending that date.
Thank you.
Not a problem. So we take that back. The third, it's not always the third Tuesday of every month for committee of the whole, with an exception. Our next meeting will land on a Wednesday, April 20th. And we will make sure that we advertise that so that any members of the gallery who want to attend in person or virtually will be able to do so and make sure that they're aware of the schedule change. Then followed by our next public meeting of council, which is the first Tuesday of May, which is Lyme Disease Awareness Month. All right.
Green light.
Green light.
I would ask this time, we actually have one reporter and no gallery members. Not that you're not a gallery member, Adam, but I guess we'll reserve all your questions for the media scrum afterwards. So we don't have to keep council here any later than they have to be. We do have a couple of gallery members watching though. Terry, do you have access?
Sure. Just hit the drop down there.
Just if you click on the little
Oh, yeah,
number 8 up there. Oh,
Can I ask a couple of
yes,
questions, Jake?
you sure can, Jake. Do you want to do it with Adam when our meeting's over? Jason had no questions.
Well, isn't there a 10-minute period here for?
Yeah, there is.
Questions for anybody?
Yeah, usually it's just for members of the gallery. We do a
Oh,
meeting
yes.
afterwards.
Oh, yeah, okay.
Yeah, perfect. Anybody from our gallery that's watching here this evening, with the exception of our media, anybody have any questions?
What's that tool there? So if you hit that, is that it?
That's the chat.
All right.
Yes, is that what you have to
Okay,
hit that?
so
to
if there's
see?
any questions from anyone
Oh,
who's
you did, I missed
listening
it,
in,
sorry.
no, feel free to unmute and ask them. And that's cool if you don't have any questions also. So not hearing any public questions at this time, I would ask council to consider a motion of adjournment.
Moved.
Second.
All those in favor, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Contrary minded. Meeting is adjourned. Thank you, everyone,
Thank
so
you.
much. And you can stop recording. Okay,
Thank you.
you're welcome.
Yeah.